What if the ending of Wizards Beyond Waverly Place Season 3 wasn't really an ending at all? Because the final moments of the season may have quietly set up something much bigger than we realized. Alex Russo's fate takes a heartbreaking turn. Mason's death changes everything. Billy finally gets her parents back. And then Justin drops one tiny detail that could completely change the future of this franchise, the Family Wizard competition. And honestly, that last tease feels way too deliberate to ignore. The crazy part is that we already know there are unfinished stories everywhere. Alex and Harper still have a friendship to rebuild. Billy and Quentin have unfinished business. Damien's past with Alex is still full of unanswered questions. And now Roman and Milo could be pulled into a competition that has the potential to bring the entire Russo family together again. So was Season 3 really meant to close the door on this story, or did Disney leave it open for a movie? Because after looking at everything the finale gave us, I seriously think there's a bigger plan here. And if that Family Wizard competition really happens, it could be the perfect way to bring these characters back together. So let's break down exactly what happened, what the ending actually means, and why this might not be the last time we see the Russo family. Saying goodbye to a Waverly show never feels easy, especially when you've spent so much time with these characters. But Season 3 ended in a way that made Alex Russo's story feel completely different. And honestly, the biggest surprise wasn't just where Alex ended up. It was the fact that her journey forced the show to answer some huge questions about her family, her past, and the people she still cares about. When Alex jumped through the rift, I think a lot of us expected something completely different. Maybe an alternate universe. Maybe another magical dimension. Maybe even some kind of secret world that would connect back to the original series. But instead, Alex wakes up inside an apartment. And at first, the whole thing feels strangely normal. That's what made it so confusing. There was something about the place that didn't feel right. But the show slowly revealed what was actually happening. Alex wasn't simply living in another universe. She was trapped somewhere between life and death, almost like a magical purgatory. And that revelation completely changed the meaning of everything we were watching. Suddenly, the apartment wasn't just a random location. It was a place where Alex had to face people and emotions she hadn't been able to deal with before. And one of the most important people there was Harper. Honestly, seeing Alex and Harper together again was one of those moments longtime fans had been waiting for. Their friendship has always been one of the emotional centers of the original series, so having them reconnect here felt important. But at the same time, it also made me realize just how much time had passed. These characters had grown up, moved in different directions, and built completely different lives. Alex especially had changed. She wasn't the same reckless teenager we knew before. She was still Alex, obviously. The sarcasm, the confidence, the ability to create chaos were still there. But there was also a much deeper emotional side to her now. And that's exactly why what happened with Mason hurt so much. At first, Alex believes Mason is there because somehow their story might continue. Then everything changes when Mason tells her the truth. He's dead. And honestly, that moment is brutal. Because Mason wasn't just some random character from Alex's past. He was one of the most important people in her life. For fans who have been watching since the original Wizards of Waverly Place, seeing Alex lose Mason again feels almost cruel. I understand why the story made that choice. If Alex is going to move forward with Damien, then Mason's story has to come to an end in some way. But knowing that doesn't make it easier. And this is where the finale gets really interesting. Because Mason's death doesn't just close one storyline. It changes the emotional direction of Alex's entire future. She has to accept that some parts of her old life are gone forever. She can't simply go back to being the Alex we remember. She has to move forward. And that brings us to Damien. Because if you thought Alex and Damien's relationship was already complicated, Season 3 actually gives us more questions than answers. We finally learn where Damien had been and why he disappeared. And the truth is honestly more interesting than I expected. Damien had once been on the wrong side of things, but he eventually became someone who was willing to risk everything to protect his family. He even stood against his own father, Nicodemus Penwolf, to save Alex and Billy. And that's a huge deal because it shows just how far Damien has changed. He isn't simply the mysterious father who disappeared. He's someone who has his own complicated history with magic, family, and power. But the finale never completely explains how Alex and Damien's relationship began. How did they meet? What did Alex see in him? Was Damien already changing before Alex came into his life? Or did Alex actually help turn him into the person we see now? Those questions matter because Nicodemus clearly believed Alex was responsible for pulling his son away from him. That means there is probably a much bigger story hiding in their past. And if Disney ever decides to make another movie, I would not be surprised if that history becomes a major part of it. Because the finale gives us just enough information to understand Damien, but not enough to completely understand him. And that's exactly the kind of mystery that makes me think the story isn't finished. Then there's Billy, and this is where everything starts coming together. Billy finally has both of her parents beside her. Damien and Alex are back in her life, and for the first time, she has something she didn't really have before, a real family. But instead of keeping everyone together, Billy eventually leaves the Russo house to live with her parents in Wizard World. And honestly, I had mixed feelings about that. Of course, Billy should be with her parents. That's her family. But why separate her from Justin, Roman, Milo, and the rest of the Russo family when she already has such a strong connection with them? That decision almost feels like the writers are creating a reason to bring everyone back together later. Because if a family wizard competition is coming, then Billy can't stay completely separated from the people who trained her. And that's where the ending suddenly becomes much more interesting. Justin mentions the family wizard competition, and that tiny detail might actually be the biggest clue in the entire finale. Because what if that wasn't just a joke? What if it was the setup for the next chapter? What if the next time we see Billy, Roman, and Milo, they're not just learning magic from Justin anymore? What if they're actually competing against each other? And if that's the plan, then Season 3 may have ended not by closing the story, but by setting the board for the next big magical battle. And this is where I think the ending becomes much more interesting. Because the family wizard competition isn't just a random line Justin throws into the finale. The way the story leaves it hanging makes it feel like a possible doorway into the next chapter. And honestly, if Disney wanted to create a movie, this would be the perfect storyline to use. Think about everything that has happened. Billy has finally found her parents. Justin has been training the next generation of young wizards. Roman and Milo have grown into their own magical abilities. And now there is a competition waiting in the background. That's almost too perfect. The original series was built around the idea of the Russo family fighting for the right to keep their magic. So bringing back that concept with a new generation would give the franchise a completely different feeling while still keeping the heart of the original story. But there is one huge problem. Billy isn't exactly a normal wizard. In fact, her family situation makes the whole competition much more complicated. Both of her parents are full wizards, but Billy is a penwolf, which immediately raises questions about how she would even qualify. Would she compete against Roman and Milo? Would the rules be different for her? Could her penwolf abilities actually give her an advantage? Or could they make the competition even more dangerous? Because let's be honest, if Billy enters a magical competition, I don't think things are going to go exactly according to the rules. This is Billy we're talking about. She has already shown that she can be impulsive, emotional, funny, and completely unpredictable. And that's exactly why watching her compete against Roman and Milo could be so entertaining. Justin may be trying to train them to become responsible young wizards, but once the competition actually begins, all that training could go out the window. And I can already imagine the family drama that would come with it. Roman wants to prove himself. Milo wants to show that he isn't the weaker brother. Billy wants to prove that she deserves to be there. And Justin is stuck in the middle trying to keep everyone from destroying the magical world. That's the kind of story that could work incredibly well as a movie because it would have comedy, competition, emotional moments, and a much bigger magical mystery underneath everything. But here's the thing. I don't think the competition would only be about winning. If Disney really wanted to take this story further, there could be a much bigger reason behind the competition. Remember, magic in this universe has always come with rules, consequences, and secrets.